G'day guys, Colour from HGT in the garage with the Raptor. It's been a long time between drinks. Now, I've actually not shown the Raptor a lot of love lately. I've been building a little Subi P-plater rig for my son. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. Today, we are going to be putting in a dual battery setup. It's been a long time coming. We've been thinking about power, thinking about different options, but I finally decided what we're doing. Something super easy, super basic, and not elaborate at all. So I did have a heap of ideas for what battery to use and how I was going to do this. The original thought process was I was going to get a slimline battery and mount it in the tub. The more I thought about that, I just couldn't quite find the right size. What I wanted to do was actually mount it above the wheel arch on the passenger side. But everything that I looked at that I liked just didn't quite work, didn't quite fit, it was just slightly too big. So we ended up going with a different option. I ended up getting a Itech World 54 amp lithium battery and then just a 25 amp DC-DC. It's actually gonna go in the cab. And I know what you're thinking, it's a weird size battery, and it is. It is a very weird size battery. What I'd like to do is this little seat pocket. So my thoughts are I should be able to mount this little 54 amp hour battery in that little pocket under the seat, because let's be realistic, no one lifts the seats up to use them pockets. I don't know anyone that actually does. The main reason I decided to go with this setup was basically I come across a targeted ad and it was 200 bucks for the battery and 280 bucks for the charger. And I ummed and ahed about whether 54 amp lithium was going to be enough. But reality is I ran a 100 amp hour AGM in the Fortuna for years and was happy with it. So being a lithium battery, you can draw it down 100%. So realistically, it should be slightly more capacity than what you'd get out of an AGM battery. So it should be a good thing, but we'll see. When we got the Raptor, the plan was always to go back to a dual battery system, a fixed mounted system. As much as I like the power pack, just a fixed system's better. I've done it, fixed system's the way to go. So for those that have been following along on this build, will know when I did the ARB dual compressor, instead of using the ARB kit, I actually used the Pirate Camp K brackets to mount it, which gave me the Pirate panel. That power panel has got obviously the mounting point for the chuck for the air compressor, but then it's also got the 3 switch locations, it's got 2 Anderson locations, and then got 2 SIG sockets. So what I've done is I've got 2 actual SIG sockets, 2 Andos, and there's 2 switches in there are both dual USB. One's got a USB-C on it, and one's also got a voltage gauge. So obviously the intention is to have power in the tray at all times. I've got this old strip lighting that's just running off one of the SIG sockets. What I'm going to do with this dual battery is we're actually going to hardwire that, so all the wiring will be hidden, and then it'll just be on off as you need it. And of course, in my fashion, my quick rough measurements are incorrect, so the battery doesn't quite fit, but I think we've got a way around that, so I'll show you that. What we ended up doing, so 54 amp hour lithium, that'll be mounted under the seat. 25 amp hour DC-DC, we're going to also mount that in the back there somewhere. I'm thinking just on the floor under the seat, but we'll just see how it all places. I ended up getting a heap of gear from online. I think it was Outback Equipment, because I couldn't be bothered going to find wiring. I ended up buying about 8 meters of 6 gauge wiring, so this will run from the battery to the charger, and then from the charger to this power block, which I'm going to find a way to mount that in behind there, which if I do blow a fuse will be a pain in the ass, but I do like the idea of it being hidden and clean, so we'll keep that hidden. Then all like the lug connections, audible them, a heap of MIDI fuses, because obviously you need a heap of MIDI fuses. Now the most important thing, can you do anything involving pirate gear without a beer? I would suggest that James the Pirate would be upset if I didn't have a beer whilst working, so not to disappoint. Itech World, WA company, they've been around forever. You look at these little lithium batteries, I don't know what that weighs, but it's light. Dimensions of it aren't too big. Like I say, I think it's slightly too big for what I want to do, but it won't matter, we'll make it work. You look at their BC-DC charger, pretty small unit, smaller than my hand. One thing I found interesting is it's got all Anderson connections, but everything's really well labelled. Makes it really easy to work out how to wire it. I'm still undecided whether I'm just going to cut the Andersons off and actually just hardwire it. I don't know how I feel about the Andersons on a BC-DC. I sort of like the idea, but I don't think I'm ever going to unplug it. So I don't know. One thing that is good though is because you've naturally got the Anderson on the solar already, you can just plug the solar straight into that. So there's literally nothing to this. Alternator, ground, ignition, so trigger wire, and then output wires will obviously positive, negative. So that's all pretty simple stuff. Obviously I only went a 25 amp charger because it's only a 50 amp hour battery, so I figure a 40 amp charger would probably fry the battery, so we'll probably play that safe. The storage stub under the seat, the idea was that this battery would sit in it flush, whereas it doesn't quite sit flush, but what it does is it allows me to have the terminals down against the plastic. And you can see like the concave of the seat, the way it actually sits in there, hard to see, but seat shuts, you can sit on the seat, you can't actually feel the battery through the bottom of the seat, so that's a win, it works. Not perfect, but you're never going to lift the seat up anyway, so it won't matter. I really didn't like the idea of these Anderson plugs at the start, but I think it's a good idea. So I just made a little harness. So this is power out from the charger to the battery. So literally repinned the red side, 40 amp MIDI fuse in line. Worst case, if you need to actually remove it, just actually unclip it. So it's not a bad idea. I didn't like it to start with, but I'm on board with it now. The plastic tub that sits in the seat, it's just got a couple of like press studs that hold it in place, and then it all clips in. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull it out and put a strap under it. I did have the idea that I could pull this out and get the battery to sit in there. It does sort of sit in there, but not as perfect as I'd like. I've got inline MIDI fuses, hydraulic crimping all the connections, so just make a good solid connection using lugs, because obviously they're just thicker, handle more power, handle more current, amps, whatever it is. But yeah, it all comes up quite neat and tidy. Pirate power panel, this is what I installed with the air compressor. Love Pirate's little logo. Air chuck, SIG, and then dual Anderson, 3 switch blanks. So this one here, USB, USB-C, and then this one is dual USB, I believe. Yep, but it's got a little volt gauge in the middle as well. Now, I got this bus bar fuse block. So 8 locations. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use one of these Anderson bolts, and I'm going to bolt on the back side under there, and then that should be able to supply one single power in from the dual battery, and then it'll just bolt back in that hole, and we should have all the power we need for everything that's on here. We'll get it all wired up and then we'll see if it works, but I think I'm pretty confident it will. This thing is a work of art. So, I made a negative bus bar, which will go down and earth under the unit. Then we've got our fuse block, which is positive bus bar, which has then got power going to all the Andersons, both the USB switches and both the SIGs. Repump the compressor, need to get the camp light power in. And then it's good to mount, good to bring the power through, and we shouldn't be too far off having this finished. So main power wire from the battery, then come around, power the fuse box. We've made that earth bus bar, so this will earth out under the car. Got the wiring for our camp light install. So we make the last connection on that, bolt that in, put the cover on, and then we should be right to bolt it all back in, put the fuses in, and we should have power. Hopefully. Let's see where we go. It is very hard to film this and try to light up the torch, but that is the BC-DC charger, just tucked behind the seat. Very small little unit, easy to mount, but I decided to just use some double-sided Velcro, just Velcro it to the floor. Left all the Anderson connections on it. I do quite like them in the end. You can see the battery, it sits fine under the seat. Yeah, just neatly all tucked away, no issues. Car, obviously everything is just hidden behind the seats, just nice and neat. Got a light up the top, voltage readings, everything works. They're just simple and easy. It's got everything you possibly need. I ended up making one modification. So the one light in the tray was probably enough, but what I realised, what was pointed out to me by a smart ass 17-year-old, was that if something's in front of said one light, you don't have light across the tray. So I ended up putting another one on the other side as well. Same thing, both amber, white lights, but the difference is this one is dimmable. Just show the amount of difference that these lights make. So, one light, 2 lights, obviously very bright in there. We go 1 amber light and 2 amber lights. I think the world's gone a little bit mad at the moment with massive battery systems, massive power systems for off-road, four-wheel drives. I've never been one to set up and stay in one place for a long period of time. So to put it in perspective, right, the fridge I use draws about 1 amp an hour. So theoretically you can run the fridge for 2 days without moving. Charging your phone draws stuff all. You might find you might draw maybe 1-2 amps max to charge your phone from flat. Running LED camp lights, same thing, they draw stuff all. So realistically, you could probably get about 2 days with no solar input or not moving. Of course, this has solar input, so if you really wanted to stay, just throw a solar blanket out, job done. Me personally, I just don't need a system bigger than this. This might be too small, but I doubt it. I'll definitely let you know though. I'll give some feedback on it. So there you have it. We finally have power to the tray. LED lighting in place, got SIGs, got USB, got Andos, 54 amp hour lithium. Should be good for about 2 days running the fridge, so that should be more than adequate because I'm never going to stay in one place for more than 2 days. Like usual, it didn't pan out the way I thought it was going to, but as always, we made it work. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Anything, feel free to comment below. And until next time, go travel.